Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Paso Robles City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 31st, 2023. I am Mayor Pro Tem Hammond, sitting in for Mayor Martin, who's not able to make it tonight. Before we begin, I'd like to go ahead and have the clerk read a statement about online meetings. Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
The city's returned to hybrid public meetings pursuant to AB 361, which allows for a deviation from the teleconference rules required by the Ralph M. Brown Act. Residents now have the option to attend the meeting in person or to participate remotely. To participate remotely, residents can live stream the meeting at www.prcity.com/YouTube and call 805-865-7276 to provide public comment via phone. The phone line will open just prior to the start of the meeting and remain open throughout the meeting to ensure the opportunity to comment on each item heard by the council. City council meetings will be live streamed during the meeting and also available to play later on YouTube by accessing the following link, www.prcity.com/YouTube. Any writing or document pertaining to an open session item on this agenda, which is distributed to a majority of the city council after posting of this agenda, will be available for the public inspection at the time the subject writing or document is distributed.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Now that we do have some honored guests here tonight, one for Piper, we'd like to have maybe one of your students come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would, please. Who would that be? Yeah, come on up. Please stand. Come on up here and just lead us like you normally do in school. Hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll have Pastor Pat Sheehan for invocation, please.
Holy Father, may your kingdom come and may your will be done here tonight as it is in heaven. We thank you for our elected leaders, Mayor Martin, councilpersons Gregory, Hammond, Bosch, and Strong. Fill them with the spirit of wisdom and revelation for every decision before them tonight. Father, bless our police and emergency services personnel who bravely serve and protect us all. May your grace be upon our city staff to give them all they need to manage and care for the many needs in our city. Lord, we thank you for your great love and many blessings poured out upon our city. And we ask all of this in the precious name of your Son, the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll call, please?
Councilmember Bausch.
Present remotely.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Strong.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hammond.
Here.
And let the record show that Mayor Martin is not present this evening.
And I think Councilman Bausch is at a conference for new council members.
And participating remotely, yes.
All right. Let's go ahead and then do staff introductions, starting with Warren Frace, please.
Warren Frace, Community Development Director.
Melissa Boyer, City Clerk, joined by Karen Jackson, IT Technician, and Jessica Ferguson, Admin Assistant.
Mary Sponholz, Deputy City Clerk.
Ryan Cornell, Administrative Services Director, here with Catherine Piatti, Finance Manager, and Karen Gallardi, Senior Accountant.
Terry Bennett has to be.
Ty Lewis, City Manager.
And Elizabeth Hull, City Attorney.
Okay, thank you. To begin the meeting tonight, we have presentations, and we'll have two of them. One first will be Winifred Piper, greatest kindness of challenge of proclamation that we're going to be doing. And then the AARAP, the Andros Award, will be also on second. So can we have a representative from the, all right, that's the whole class? Would probably be good. Yeah. Come on up. Here, and I'll be on this. Okay. So we're going to read a proclamation, which is something that we give to any individual or group that honors the city. And so I'll read it here. This is going to be the proclamation to Winifred Pfeiffer Elementary School for their participation in the Great Kindness Challenge, January 23rd through 27th, 2023. Okay. Whereas the greatest challenge, KGC, is a global campaign that promotes kindness, social, emotional health, and bullying prevention, pre-kindergarten and all the way through 12th grade. GKC was created and launched in 2012 by Peace for Kids, a global nonprofit based in Carlsbad, California. GKC has multiplied in enrollment each year, having grown over 18 million students in 36,000 schools, reaching across 50 states and 115 countries. GKC provides educators and students the tools, opportunity, encouragement, and activity to create positive, respectful, and inclusive school culture for all. GKC is 1 week dedicated to students performing as many kind deeds as possible. Winifred Pfeiffer School proudly demonstrated their commitment to the activity to create positive, respectful, and inclusive school culture for all participating in the Great Kindness Challenge. So now, therefore, be it resolved that I, John Hammond, speaking on behalf of Mayor Steve Martin, and with the authority invested in me as Mayor Pro Tem, and speaking on behalf of the rest of the council, do hereby honor the staff, students of Winifred Pfeiffer School for their initiative in taking part in the Great Kindness Challenge Week during January 2023. And so, thank you very much. Go ahead, we have your instructor then maybe say a few words. Would you like to?
I'm the principal. So our students participate. It's not just a week of kindness. We spend the entire year talking about kindness with our students. And this is our student council, so they're here on behalf of our school to accept this honor and award. So I think they stand for themselves, but they practice kindness on a daily. We have such an amazing group of scholars at our school. So give them another round of applause because they totally deserve it.
Thank you very much. Did we get a picture of that? Somebody?
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And secondly, we'd like to have Mike Cousin come on up, Mike, and Linda, come on up with her. We have some need for support here for holding something. Mike, we're honoring you with a proclamation given today for the Andros Award of Community Service, January 31st, 2023. We're honoring to receive the award that, whereas Mike Kusin received the award for community service presented to AARP California, and whereas the award is AARP's most prestigious volunteer tribute recognizing outstanding individuals who are sharing their experience, talents, and skills to enrich the lives of others. And whereas the award is given annually to one California who embodies the principles of AARP's founder, Dr. Percy Andrus, who believed in the power of ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Mike has served as a tax aid volunteer for 12 years and served as a California Tax Aid District 18 coordinator for AARP Foundation, overseeing 7 tax aid sites in San Luis Obispo County, including Paso Robles City, our library, senior citizens, and volunteer center. And whereas California District 18 produces the highest volume of tax aid prepared returns in the whole state, well done, Mike has instrumentally been providing innovative virtual tax preparation during the COVID-19 pandemic, which served as a model for other tax aid site coordinators. Now, therefore, be resolved that I, John Hammond, presenting this on behalf of Mayor Martin, and therefore the venture virtue of authority vested in me as Mayor Pro Tem, and speaking on behalf of the rest of the council, do hereby recognize and congratulate Mike Kusin for receiving the AARP Award of Community Service. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, City of Paso Robles and the City Council, Mayor and the City Council, and the Recreation Department is represented by Linda Plescia here for supporting AARP in the tax preparation program that we do every year for over 25 years here in Paso Robles. We do about 1,000 tax returns for low-income people, and we're open for pretty much all people, and we're at the Senior Center, in the Veterans Memorial Building, and we're also here in the City Council chambers every Saturday. And if you have any questions about our program, it's ccfreetax.org, and we'll be happy to do your tax return for you and relieve you of some of your angst. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. And when are you starting your season, I guess?
We'll start on Saturday, right here.
Perfect.
So we have to set up, we used to be the council on Saturday, but we can't do that anymore, so we got to take it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Moving on, we have a Small Business Administration recovery presentation. Who will be doing that? Oh, please.
Thank you very much. We are honored to be here. We appreciate your consideration. Honorable Paso Robles Mayor Pro Tem John Heyman, Council Members Chris Bosch, Steve Gregory, and Fred Strong, good evening and thank you very much. My name is George Kosciuszko, and I'm a Public Information Officer for the U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Resilience and Recovery. The SBA Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience, sorry, they just changed the name, so we're getting a little used to it, is here following the President Biden's major disaster declaration of January 14th of 2023 for human loss, physical damage, and economic injury as a result of severe winter storms, flooding, landslides, and mudslides that began December 27th, 2022 in many parts of California. This presidential declaration covers all coastal counties from San Mateo to the north to Santa Barbara to the south. It includes this county, San Luis Obispo, as a primary or designated county. What that means when I say primary or designated county is that our federal program provides low-interest federal disaster loans to assist businesses and residents that may not be insured or may be underinsured as a result of the severe winter storms, flooding, landslides, and mudslides that began December 27th of 2022. Specifically, in terms of the potential benefits, for individuals and families, this includes up to $200,000 in loans to repair or replace real estate damage for homeowners, as well as both homeowners and renters can apply for up to $40,000 in coverage to replace personal property. For businesses, which includes nonprofits and places of worship, property damage up to $2 million is available to repair or replace real estate, machinery, and equipment, inventory, and other assets that were damaged and destroyed. Economic injury is an economic injury disaster loan, also known as an EIDL, for up to $2 million also, with or without property damage. So that's a side thing. For working capital needed that would not have been disrupted otherwise to help until normal operations resume due to the disaster. Interest rates can be as low as 2.313% for homeowners and renters, and this is over a 30-year term, 2.375% for private nonprofit organizations, and 3.305% for businesses with terms up to 30 years. Loan amounts and terms are set by the SBA and are based on each applicant's financial condition. We also have mitigation assistance for eligible SBA disaster loan borrowers who may choose to receive expanded funding to help mitigate their home and or businesses. So this is aside from the other siloed loans. This is critical though. I want to just, this is why I'm so glad to be here with the council today. The application deadline for physical damage, this is businesses and homeowners and renters, is March 16th, 2023, and the economic injury disaster loans is October 16th, 2023. So what I mean by that is that we really encourage people to investigate and register and find out before the March 16th deadline, because once you're in, as it were, in the system, then you've met the deadline. And even if you're not, even if you decide it's not something that's for you, at least you've checked it out and you're in the system. We encourage people to complete the SBA application even if they are not sure they need it yet. If approved, the loan still becomes an option. Because this is a presidential declaration, we are partners with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which also provides benefits for survivors. So we encourage everyone who has or believes they have suffered a loss to start by registering with FEMA first. So it's essence, even though we're partners, they are kind of the umbrella when a presidential declaration happens. So there is a website, which is the fastest way to pre-register. They're asking people to do that through www.disasterassistance.gov. You can also apply by calling 1-800-621-3362 or by visiting the local assistance center in San Luis Obispo County, which is at the Veterans Hall at 801 Grand Avenue in San Luis Obispo. And the zip code, of course, is 93401. Through that process, you can toggle and reach Small Business Administration resources, as well as other resources. I don't know if anybody's been to the center. It's wonderful. We've got United Way, we've got nonprofits there, we have the city, we have the county represented, and we have a whole suite of state services from the taxation agencies to others, and it's great information for people to kind of find out where they stand. Specific though to the SBA loans, just in case there's interest in the community, there are 3 ways to apply if you want to work directly. And that one way is virtually is at our disasterloanassistance.sba.gov website or by email at disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. Another way is by calling our 800-659-2955 number. And the third way, of course, is the local assistance center in San Luis Obispo at the Veterans Hall. Now, I had a FEMA partner today. We did a radio interview, and apparently there have been already through FEMA 1,500 applications in the county of San Luis Obispo. And it's been only, we've only been here for about a week and a half. Now, Santa Barbara County has 2 assistance centers that opened up over the weekend. They're at about 700 right now. So they're still trying to get the word. These are, as you know, very large agriculturally based geographic areas. So there's still some preliminary damage assessments being done, and we're still finding more things that may need to be addressed. So the center that I mentioned on Grand Avenue operates from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Sunday through Monday, so basically 7 days a week. Try to keep the hours expanded so that people that are working regular jobs can get there after hours or come on the weekend. Please let me know if you'd like me to provide any outreach to your community in person. I can dispatch FEMA. We've got people that can do that if you feel there's a need. Or if you'd like to discuss the disaster assistance federal loan program, and you can do that by contacting me by email, which is at george.kostyrko@sba.gov, or by text, which is my phone, at 571-455-2729. I know that was a lot, and you may have some questions. Another thing I wanted to share with you is that I remain your liaison with this county, because as this has been kind of rolling forward, we've had other counties that have asked for what's called preliminary damage assessments. And as the governor and the administration, the federal administration are talking, they've been adding other counties at what would be primary designated counties. So as we've done the work here and our FEMA partners have done the work here, we'll be moving forward to other counties, but we will still be a partner with you, and you're going to be your point of contact if you need that. And so thank you for allowing me time to present this. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them either from you at the dais or anybody in the audience. So.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, George. The big thing is to get online and it gets into the system by March 16th.
Yeah, that's a critical one. And you can apply for EIDL as well as the physical loan. But that deadline is really important. In the past, when there's been a crush and people, sometimes you know how people are, they wait till the last second. There have been extensions, but there has been no extension now at this point. So right now it's a hard date.
Okay. Questions of council? Steve, Gregory, go ahead.
Yep. Thank you for your service and what you're providing. I'd highly recommend getting a hold of local radio stations and our local newspapers, because a lot of us, rely on those, and it'd be really good to get on the air so people know about you.
Yes, and we've been doing that. Actually, I've reached out to, I'm telling you, it's a sad state of affairs of print journalism, guys. I started in that years and years ago. Yeah. I remember when the Paso Robles Press was a paper that was delivered. It's now online. I did reach out to the publisher and urged him to reach out to me, and we wanted to work with him. San Luis Obispo Tribune has been really great. Yeah. We were at KCBX today, which is, I think, your NPR affiliate. And another thing that I wanted to mention, which is important, is we've really been trying hard to reach out to the Latino Hispanic community, both the business community leaders and others, to make sure that they're aware of services, because you'd be pleasantly surprised. A lot of people are eligible to talk to us about what's available out there. FEMA is an incredible partner. They have recovery services, funds that are available that we don't have. And that's why it's important to get into that FEMA the main email, as it were.
Yeah, there's a large population north of us on River Road between here and San Miguel, and those folks got hit really, really hard. Several homeowners and farmers and business people, so I'm sure they could use the help.
And one thing I do want to differentiate, because this is such a bounty, this county being being agriculturally based, the folks that have herds, the folks that are growing, that are doing vineyards and they're growing other crops, they do have access to funds through the USDA. Okay. We offer some narrow benefits, but it would almost be akin to, like, let's say the mayor had a tasting room. Okay. He didn't grow the grapes, but he bought the juice, he put it in bottles, put his name on it. So that would fall under us as a small business thing. If there was some kind of like a flood or something like that happened, because it was nearby, perhaps some vineyards, right? Something like that. But so there is a differentiation. So I would encourage those of us those listening in the agriculture community to certainly explore their options with USDA.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Strong.
Pardon me. And I would just like to congratulate you. I just got back from Washington, D.C. and talked to a lot of the people up there, and we heard about the outreaches, and it's lovely to see it actually happening in our community. I really congratulate you.
I have to tell you, I had a prior history with your community. I worked for the state of California. I was the communication director last at the State Water Resources Control Board. And so I'm very familiar with the Central Coast Water Board and some of the issues you guys have had with salinization and some of the groundwater. But before that, I worked at the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitations, and I actually was at the California Youth Authority. And there was a lot of tears when the El Paso de Robles facility on Airport Road closed down. I love that place. Mm-hmm. Everybody loved it. The water board was like this, but definitely the Youth Authority was a family. They were truly a family, and they were part of this community. And I'm so sorry that things have changed in that juvenile justice arena.
Well, thank you for all of your service.
All right.
And Councilman Bausch, do you have anything for George?
Just echo what Councilman Strong and Gregory have already said. Thank you very much for being here, providing a great service. Hopefully we don't see you too often under the same circumstances.
Right.
And thank you for sharing the memories about the Youth Authority. It was a great place.
And final question from staff. Do we have some sort of a link on our website to get people from Paso to them easy?
Yes, we do.
Okay, very good. Thought so.
And I wanted to leave an open invitation that at the next meeting, if you wanted to have anybody from FEMA or any of the other support organizations here, they're more than happy to do so. This meeting was set up by my predecessor, Sabrina Tilton, who is just an incredible resource. She is actually from Buellton, Santa Barbara, so she's been working very hard in that community. She feels it's very much close to the heart for her, so she's been working hard. But originally she had this county as well as that one, which, you know, those are both pretty large counties. And so I was brought in here last week. So this was set up prior, so I wasn't able to have other partners join me today. So
okay, thank you very much for coming,
thank
George.
you very much.
Thank you. Oh, you have one question if you want to.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Oh, absolutely. Yes. My phone number is 571-455-2729. Right. So if you reach out to me tomorrow or 2 months from now, I will be responsive. And if you have any questions, we'll work closely. And I do want to let you know the members of the Assembly along the coast have been very interested in what's going on. They've asked us a lot of questions, they've been great questions about services to some of the parts of the community that we may not be thinking about. And so that's been helpful to everybody that we've been sharing that. I did share that with a couple of the chambers today, and well, some of the other cities. So if you guys are interested in that, I'd be glad to forward that to the clerk.
Thank you, George.
Okay.
All right, moving on, then we have now item 4. It's the fire hazard zones update. Chief Stornetta, please.
Good evening, Pro Tem Mayor Hammond, members of the council, Jonathan Stornetta, Fire Chief. I'm here before you tonight to talk about hazard severity zones. Hazard severity zones are not new. They've been in existence since the early 2000s, but they've mostly only been adopted in what we refer to as a state responsibility area, or the SRA. So that would be all areas outside local government areas. So just outside the city limits surrounding the city is considered SRA areas. Now the maps we have had an exemption in prior years where we didn't have to adopt them and the SRAs did. And the reason we have never adopted them is because we felt that their data was inaccurate and inconclusive. But recent legislation has now said that we are mandated by state law to adopt these. And the problem we have with adopting these maps is we still feel that their data is inaccurate and our input is little to none with the state. So whatever the state decides, then it impacts us. There's 3 levels of fire hazard. They're moderate, high, and very high. High is currently what the west side outside the city limits is classified as. And when I talk about SRA and LRA, again, I'm going to reference SRA outside the city limits, but it has impacts to us, as I will discuss in further slides here. Next slide, please. So, back one. Or, I'm sorry, you're right. Okay. We'll get this. It's sensitive. So there's 5 determining factors when you're looking at determining your hazard severity zones. You'll see them here: flame length, potential fuel, terrain, local weather, blowing embers, and fire history. And I'll expand on those a little further in the presentation as well. Next slide. So right now, this shows the county limits on the west side, and you can see that currently it's classified as high, but then they're proposing that it's very high. So why are we concerned with the SRA when we're in the LRA? It's because of intrusion. So we expect, if the state's saying that it's very high outside the city limits, that intrusion will come into the city and automatically we will be deemed very high as well, which currently we have no classification. So whether that determining area is all the way to Highway 101, whether it just goes to Vine Street, it's unknown now. But again, we don't have any input into it. Next slide, please. So when we talk about determining factors, flame length and potential fuel. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to dispute what their findings were to upgrade the classification. So if we look at flame length and potential fuel on the west side, what we see up there predominantly is vineyards. We see dry land farming, we see almond groves, and we see residential development. So we don't have the continuity of fuels that we see elsewhere throughout the state that will propagate large wildland fires. The terrain, our terrain is conducive to wildfire expansion if one started, but again, we don't have those continuity of fuels. You don't see vineyards spreading fire that adds to flame length that makes those big fires grow. Our local weather. Anyone that's been here on the west side, especially Mr. Hammond, you're a pilot, they would know that if the state fire marshal in Sacramento, if they actually came down here and saw our local weather, they would know our winds are out of the southwest, predominantly 3 to 5 miles an hour. So the winds are very low. The winds out of the southwest carry a lot of moisture with them. So we don't see here the impacts from local weather or weather that others see. We don't have mono winds, the sundowners, or winds out of the northeast that bring the critically low relative humidity levels that fires spread. Blowing embers, again, we don't have the continuity fuels to make the embers blow across the city. And then fire history. Next slide, please. So as I went back and looked at fire history, I'm only looking at everything on the west side, about 8 miles out is what I looked at. So this is the state history map, and it records from 1878 to 2023. And in 144 years, there hasn't been one significant wildfire on the west side of our community or one outbuilding or residential structure that has been lost. Next slide, please. So as I was looking at our fire history, and I'm disputing or questioning the inaccurate data that we're seeing from the state fire marshal's office, I decided to look outside of our area. And a good friend of mine, he's the fire chief in the city of Santa Rosa, and this is Santa Rosa here. And this is a result of the Tubbs fire. So the Tubbs fire is one of the most destructive fires in wildfire history. It happened in 2017. It started in an SRA area, burned into the city of Santa Rosa, destroyed over 1,400 homes. So one would think, well, maybe that SRA area that it came into was a high or very high classification. It was moderate. So then I thought, well, I wonder what they've upgraded it to based on this fire. It's still classified as moderate. So again, that just compounds my questions about what's really going on. Why are the people in Sacramento telling us what we need to do locally? Next slide, please. So what are the impacts? So if they do, in fact, classify us as very high in the city, we'll have to adopt new building codes, new fire codes, and both of those codes alone will add about $50,000 to a single-family residential structure. So you're looking at tempered glass, you're looking at new roofing materials, boxed eaves, the list goes on and on. We'll also be required to update our general plan and safety element. We'll be required to do defensible space inspection. So you will not be able to sell your home unless the fire department comes and does a defensible space inspection. So that's impacts to our service at the fire department, which we don't have capacity to do at this point, but yet the state's not providing us any funding for this additional work. And lastly, the impacts is, if you look to your right here, we talk about insurance premiums. The Office of the State Fire Marshal says that there'll be no impacts to insurance premiums. And here, I know many of you have received from residents or received phone calls and emails from residents, as have I, in regards to insurance premiums being increased. And this letter right here shows in less than 2 weeks, one of our residents here in the city, right there where we're highlighted, it says, your renewal premium is estimated to increase by more than 25% over last year's premium. I know, Mr. Hammond, this is not new for you because your premiums increased as well, but I'm here to tell you that if they come into the city and say we're a very high hazard severity zone, this will not be uncommon. And in fact, we will start seeing a lot more people not getting their insurance renewed. So we need to be very concerned about what's happening at the state level. Next slide, please. So what are some mitigations we've taken locally? We've done a lot thanks to the council, city manager, supporting the fire department. One, increasing or addressing all the deficiencies noted in our ISO rating. So you can see 3 out of the 4 we've already addressed. We do have the training tower, which is still a large deficiency in the ISO rating, but we're actually working on that now. We have a number of things or a number of plans for evacuations. We have a platform called Zone Haven that'll help with notifications to the public, provide traffic routes and evacuation routes and timing for that. Next slide, please. So I have provided my comments to the Office of State Fire Marshal at a public hearing in January, expressed my concerns, and I'm asking the public to please send your comments in to the State Fire Marshal's office. There's the email address there. This letter that you see on the right is what I sent to Mayor Martin this morning, or this afternoon, I should say, and hoping for him to co-sign with me, and I'll be sending it to the League of California Cities, which also opposes this, as well as the California Fire Chief Association. I'm asking residents to please get their comments in by April 4th so the State Fire Marshal can review those. And I think that we may have some callers or people in the audience as well that would like to express their same concerns, but that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good, Chief. Questions of Chief Stornetta first?
Jonathan, encourage everybody to write letters to this agency?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And if you're welcome to reach out to the fire department, we can provide you that email address.
Okay.
It has to be a formal comment letter. They won't take phone calls.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Strong.
Not exactly a question, but one of my former homes was one of those destroyed in Santa Rosa. And one of the things I would point out is the density factor. Once they had a spark in the city, they had a problem because the houses are so close together. And that's a problem we do not have here, generally speaking, also. Just another thought.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilman Bausch?
Chief Stornetta, is there a way that we can post like a form letter that residents can download, fill in, and send it in, or perhaps even an email template to do the same?
I can work with our city attorney and develop something.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, I've thought for a long time, because of the losses that the insurance companies had in California, that there was really no fighting this. And it seems like the state wants the insurance companies to be whole again. They've had great losses, obviously, and they're saying in that letter, though, that they are not doing that, which is kind of odd. So.
Yeah, we reached out to one of the largest, well, it is the largest insurance risk pool in the U.S. And because the Office of State Fire Marshal said they do not utilize, or they do not increase premiums, and they in fact told us that is one of their data points that they utilize is the fire hazard severity zone maps.
I do know, though, I think there is a state of California insurance, fire insurance.
There is the California State Plan, or FAIR Plan is what it's referenced. So one thing to know about that is it is not general liability. So you would still have to have your regular insurance along with the FAIR Plan. I can tell you that people that are utilizing the FAIR Plan that I've spoke to are paying between $8,000 to $10,000 annually just for fire insurance.
Wow.
So
huge.
And we did send a letter, the mayor and I, to Senator Laird last year in regards to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John.
Welcome.
I'll open it up to anybody in the audience, public, would like to make a comment. Michael. Welcome.
Michael Rivera, 928 Walnut Drive. I want to just say to the public and to the council that Mr. Stornetta's right on. My son's a fireman. These issues are different in different areas of the state, and I would highly encourage, this is a representative republic. The people need to speak, and you need to send your letters and your concerns to the people that the chief has outlined. We need to trust that his many years of experience and understanding of fires and our area are important. He's the expert, not some bureaucrat in Sacramento. And these costs are starting to get out of control. It's forcing people out of our city. It's forcing people out of our state, and it's got to stop. And until people stand up and say stop, it's not going to stop. So I highly encourage people to follow Chief Stornetta's instruction and do just that and sign their name to a letter indicating. And you might want to even consider being a sanctuary away from those policies that Sacramento wants to put on us. Claim ourselves a sanctuary And you might want to do that more often than not because it's destroying small cities like ours. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone on line that wish to speak?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. Appreciate the report. Moving on, we have a report from the Paso Robles Wine Country Alliance update. Joel Peterson?
They won't be here tonight, sir. There was a conflict.
Okay, moving on. General public comments, we'll open it up now for any general public comments. Anybody wishing to address the council on items that are not on the agenda, please go ahead and make your way over to the podium. We'll go ahead and give you 3 minutes, and looks like Michael is first. Go ahead, Mike.
Forgive me for being long-winded, people of the community and city council. I'm a little bit disappointed that Joel Peterson is not here. The Wine Country Alliance is funded directly or indirectly through pass-throughs for this city. And I want to let you know that Joel Peterson, the executive director of the Wine Country Alliance, was also a past trustee of the Paso Robles Unified School District. There's a link there. Joel Peterson has been asked to resign the seat that he was coronated with just recently by a coalition of citizens in this city. I want everybody to understand that if we're passing through money to an organization headed by a man, a former trustee, whose school district was found to be not just out of compliance, but the grand jury had some very serious things to say about the conduct of our school district. If people think that just goes off and doesn't really mean anything, it does. Because our tax money is going through and passing through to the Wine Alliance, which is being headed up by Joel Peterson. I'm going to ask again, Joel, save everybody a lot of time because you will be recalled. Our coalition will recall you. So do the right thing, do the honorable thing. Do the right thing, do the honorable thing. Step down, resign your seat. You can stay, I guess, on the Wine Alliance if they want to have you. But I assure you, if my money, my tax money, my money is being passed through to this organization, I want somebody to answer for what happened in that school district.
Mike, I think we need to confine our comments to this organization, though. So you have anything for the council?
Well, it does happen to be part of this organization because this former trustee is the executive director of an organization that we pass through money to.
Okay.
It's very much part of it. Don't try to dodge and don't try to protect Joel Peterson because he did a lot of damage while he was at the school district and now continues to because he doesn't have the honor to resign. Thank you.
You bet. Anyone else? Dale?
Good evening, gentlemen. Dale Guston. I don't know if that's a fire engine or a police car, but anyway, I helped start the first wine festival, and the Wine Alliance is a very viable and good organization. If its members like Joel Peterson, he has an extensive background in wine industry, that's up to them. But I don't want you to ever stop funding the Wine Alliance. They've brought an awful lot of tourism to this town, and I'm very proud to have helped start that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Jerry Eckert, and I'm new to Paso. I've only been here since June of last year.
Welcome, Jerry.
And I have to say, I love this town. But anyhow, what I've been noticing since I've been here is the homeless population. And my question to you, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but what are we doing to address that problem?
Okay, we'll take your question and try to give you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Melissa, do we have anybody online?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, actually, Ty, can you go ahead and give us a little update on what we are currently doing with regard to the homeless, or maybe staff fill in too?
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. So I was going to save these comments for for the conclusion of the meeting, but I'll address it now. So the city is still working very proactively to address the homeless program. The council obviously will recall that at our last meeting, we approved funding for ECHO as part of to help them with their ongoing support. I believe Mr. Gregory was there at a meeting with me just last week, where we sat down and had a meeting with all of our business owners and public that are impacted by the operations there on Blackout Corridor, and got updates on their plans and their services that are being offered. And they'll be providing another update to the council here in the next month or so as part of our regular updates. You recall last summer that the chamber, in coordination with the city, underwent a futures process that outlined the potential futures for Paso Robles as it relates to homelessness. And as part of that discussion was the discussion around the city and others creating a strategic plan to address homelessness. We have engaged the same consultant the city has to help us craft a strategic plan related to homelessness. Angelica Fortin, who is not only our community services director, but also our homeless liaison with the community, is undertaking that process. So we'll have more updates for the community and for the council as we get the scope of that work crafted and began working with Mr. Whalen to execute that plan as well. In addition to that, I believe, Mr. Hammond, you went along for this. We went down to Grover Beach to tour their Five Cities Homeless Coalition emergency housing shelter, pallet shelters. They have 20 units that they brought online in the last month to house a number of their community and 90 to 180-day programs. We've been having conversations with the county to explore options to bring that to Paso Robles. As part of that, we'll be providing individual briefings to the council over the next month to answer questions or concerns regarding the potential for that program as well. And staff is diligently looking for potential sites. And lastly, I would like to, I believe it was in the paper recently, much discussion in the community is the Paso Robles Housing Authority has two projects that they're working on to bring close to a couple hundred affordable housing units to the community. Some of them are for our senior community, and others are just for general use as well. So there's a lot going on with the homeless, in addition to the CAT team, which is regular fixture at the police department, which has been diligently conducting cleanups within the river, and also responding to regular calls for service within the community. So even though that it's probably not as publicized as a lot of people would like, the city is well engaged and actively looking for solutions to work with our county, our state, and federal partners to keep addressing homelessness. But it certainly is a challenge that's seemingly never ending at this point.
Thank you, Ty. Appreciate it. Councilman Strong.
Just very briefly, at the end of the meeting, in our council activity reports, I will be reporting on meetings I've had at the federal and state level on this problem as well.
Yeah.
And Councilman Gregory?
Yeah, and just to add to the commentary, ECHO is, I think, housed now over 70 people out of the river that were homeless into homes and jobs. And so they're working actively to help these folks get back into the stream of life. And we're working very diligently also with the county. The county is offering some funding for local communities. And their goal over the next 5 years is to reduce homelessness by 50%. And so we're actively working with our city manager and everybody to tackle that and get as much help as we can. So we're working on it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Bausch, did you have anything to comment on?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Moving on then to item H, which is the agenda items to be deferred. Mr. Ty Lewis, do you have anything for us? I think you said there was going to be a couple.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. We do. So item number 6 is approval of a lease agreement with the Office of Congressman Jimmy Panetta for a congressional district office here in Paso Robles. We'll be deferring that to an upcoming meeting as Mr. Panetta's staff, they're still trying to figure out exactly where they want to be, even though they're going to be here in Paso Robles in a city building. It would appear that they want to lease, but just trying to figure out exactly what that property looks like. And we'll be bringing that back because it'll require some modification to the documents there. And then lastly, the other item to be deferred is last item on tonight's agenda, which is item number 3, which is the Uptown Center specific plan boundary expansions. And so staff still needs to make some adjustments and have some conversations with City Council on that before we're prepared to bring that discussion forward to Council. So both of those items will be deferred.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ty. So on the consent, number 6 is out, and on discussion items, number 3 will be out for tonight. Moving on, then we have consent calendar up next. These are items that, if discussion is warranted, we need to go ahead and call it and pull it. If not, we can go ahead and open it up for public comment and then take a roll call on that one. Any council people like to have anything pulled at this time? Steve, Brett, Chris, do you have anything that you'd like to have pulled?
Not pulled, just a comment on I-5. Just thank to Ryan and Catherine for meeting with me. Appreciate their help.
Okay. Dale, looks like you're looking for something. Go ahead and open it up to the public. Anybody wishing to?
I'd like to know the date when Jimmy Panetta is going to be here. I was acquainted with his father, Leon, and he did a good job, and I'm hoping Jimmy can do as well. And we need to have him have an office in Paso Robles because I think he's going to be a powerful voice up there in Sacramento, and we want him to carry our voice up there as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and bring it back to council. I'm looking for a motion then. We're going to be items 1 through 5, looks like.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to move that we approve items 1 through 5 on the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, first will be through Councilman Gregory and second through Councilman Strong. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gregory?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Councilmember Bausch?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hammond?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. All right, moving on then to item J, report on items approved on consent. Ty Lewis, please.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Hammond. So as mentioned, we have 5 items that were approved this evening. First one is the approval of the January 12th City Council Disaster Emergency Meeting Minutes. Item number 2 is the January 17th City Council meeting minutes. We have our receipt of our warrant register. Item number 4 is the treasurer's report for November of 2022. And item number 5 is the mammoth document that Mr. Cornell and team worked so diligently on, which is the annual comprehensive financial report for 21-22, fondly referred to as the ACFR. And that is it.
Very good. All right, moving on then to discussion items. We have first up participation in the San Luis Obispo County desalination study. Our Utilities Director, Mr. Christopher Alaco, has a report, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem, and City Council members, good evening. The City of Paso Robles participates in regional water resources monitoring, management, and planning with the county and other agencies. There are areas of our county that remain vulnerable to drought and water shortages. The county, in recognition of the need for additional supplies and improved reliability, has identified desalination as a water management strategy to pursue in southern San Luis Obispo County due to ocean proximity and future supply and demand needs. The county is launching a study to evaluate desalination as a supplemental water supply for purveyors in San Luis Obispo County. The county has initiated the first phase of the study to consider the feasibility, benefits, and impacts of a desalination project. It is unlikely that a regional desal project could cost-effectively provide desalted water directly to the city of Paso due to the city's distance from the coast. However, future use of desalination by other water suppliers in the county could reduce demand for other shared sources, such as Lake Nacimiento, and indirectly benefit the city's water supply and long-term reliability. San Luis Obispo County has requested that water purveyors, like the city of Paso Robles, that wish to be included in the study, adopt a resolution approving participation. Participation in this phase of the project does not require funding from the participating agencies. It would not bind the city to participate in later phases or funding for the project. The city is committed to ensuring a reliable and adequate water supply through build-out and beyond, and has established several water supply planning goals, which include increasing and diversifying available water supplies. While the city is currently water secure, it's important to remember that there are forces that threaten our existing water portfolio, including changing regulations and climate, increasing demands on a shared resource, natural disasters, legal challenges, etc. So it remains critical that the city keep an eye towards the future and continue to seek ways to improve the long-term reliability of its water supply. Approving this resolution before you tonight will authorize the city's participation in the county desalination study. This will allow the city to contribute to development of the project scope, to include evaluation of potential benefits to water agencies that are remote from the proposed desal facility, but may benefit indirectly through water exchanges or other mechanisms. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Christopher. Questions?
So, Christopher, so is this the desal plan at Diablo they're talking about using maybe? Or?
They're going to evaluate several options, and part of this evaluation is try to determine what would be the best location for the facility. And of course, Diablo would be one of those sites that they would consider.
And will you sit on that board?
Yeah, it'd be myself or Kirk Gonzalez, our water resources manager.
And is there any obligation for financing of any of this right now?
Not at this phase.
Just to participate?
Yeah, not at this phase. This is going to be a long-term effort. This is construction of this facility is probably 25 years out. So this is a long view here.
Well, good to have you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Strong? None? Councilman Bausch, any questions for Christopher?
I do. Christopher, it's good to know that there isn't any financial commitment on behalf of the city at this point. If it is 25 years out, when would be an appropriate time to begin negotiations if a desal plant looks likely? When would we want to get in line to take up what might become, at that point, surplus water to other cities south of us?
So the planning phase for this project is expected to conclude in 2028. So I think around that time is when we would really have an idea of what and how we would participate in something like this.
So that's a lot sooner than I would have anticipated. That's good. Having you in that study group, you'd be able to monitor that and keep council advised of when we might want to begin that and start asking those kinds of questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. My question, comment essentially, Christopher, is this kind of likens myself to the history of the Nacimiento pipeline. It took about this much time to think about it and get it built, and 25 years plus actually it was. So hopefully, again, I think it's important that we all look for any kind of resource for fresh water in California, and it's going to be important to have it on the table and understand where we got to go for it. But, okay, thank you. Any questions from the public?
Members of the council and the audience and public, I've been talking about desal for a long time. Thank goodness. Thank goodness somebody's finally starting to think about this. The Israelis have got groundwater down to the cost, or the Israelis have got desal down to the cost of groundwater. And I have to say that the technology is there. You know, supplying our coastal region with plenty of fresh water is an important step because it affects us, as the speaker just said, because it'll help mitigate any impacts on our water supply. Although people may not understand, we live on a huge aquifer here, We need to preserve it and maintain it and make sure it's there. Unlike the folks in the Owens Valley who got sucked dry. We have to be aware of that because the Owens Valley has been shown to be an example of what not to do. So desal, I think, is important for us. I think it's something that we should fast track and try to get moving because the cost of desal is affordable now. But who should really look at it? None of my business. They got to deal with their own problems. Southern California. That's the big problem. And Southern California is coming here to try to tie into our water supply. Make no mistake about it. That's happening right now. So we should fast track this. We should move on this very quickly. And we should be a leader in the state as it relates to desal in this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else having comment? Seeing none. Bring it back to council then for direction.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Strong.
Actually, we have had desal proposed a number of times here, and it has been vetoed every time by either the Coastal Commission or one of our water boards. So it is great to see this study coming forward that will give us the ammunition to actually get one to happen. And it is vastly needed. And I'm prepared to make a motion unless Councilman Gregory.
Go ahead, Mr. Strong. That's fine.
I move that we approve Resolution 23XXX, authorizing the city's participation in the county desalination study.
Second by Gregory.
Second.
Okay, we have the first by Strong, second by Councilman Gregory. Chris, we'll get you next one. Go ahead and call. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Councilmember Gregory?
Aye.
Councilmember Bosch?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hammond?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimous.
Very good. Moving on to item 2, downtown on-street parking program. And Chief Nord will be handling this, or?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, Chief Nord is out this evening, so we're going to have Donna be the assistant chief tonight.
Donna King, thank you. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present tonight. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. As you know, staff presented the financial data on the parking program to you in December. Tonight, I'll be providing an update as requested by council on the upcoming parking technology enhancements as well as the local discount program. We have some parking technology enhancements coming that we expect to launch on March 1st. We will be upgrading the Flowbird mobile application. The new app will be easier to use and offer improved features. The Flowbird app will have a built-in map showing all the parking spaces in downtown and will highlight free and long-term parking options. We will also offer a pay-by-text option. Visitors can text the number posted on the signs and will receive a link to pay for parking with no need to download an app. As you can see from the image there on the screen, customers will be prompted to enter their license plate and phone number. Then they will be prompted to enter their payment information, and a receipt will be text or emailed to them. We're also excited to offer an improved merchant validation program. Merchants will be able to purchase 1-hour parking codes at a 50% discount. The codes will be provided on easy-to-hand-out cards. The merchants can then offer the codes to their customers to be used at the pay stations or the mobile application. Participating merchants can be highlighted on the map in the Flowbird mobile application to show customers where they can get their parking validated. For our local discount program, we would like to offer our local residents the local program will offer verified households 5 hours of free parking per month. There will be an online application that verifies their residency. Once approved, each household will receive a unique code. Each code will provide 5 1-hour free parking sessions that can be used at the pay station or on the mobile app. Any unused parking sessions during the month will expire at the end of the month. And each code will be replenished with 5 free parking sessions on the first of the month. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present tonight. Our recommendations tonight are to authorize the city manager to execute the contract renewal with Flowbird, approve a discounted merchant validation program, and approve a 12-month local discount pilot program. And I'm happy to answer any questions for you.
All right, thank you, Donna. Questions of Donna King? Councilman Gregory?
So, Donna, could you review the improvements on the app again one more time for us?
Sure. Go back to that. So it'll be the Flowbird app. As you're aware, we have the Way to Park app currently. It's being discontinued. So we'll be updating. It's the same vendor, but it's an updated app with enhancements to the features. The app is available to download right now. It's not functioning for Paso Robles, but they have locations all over the country. So if you wanted to see it, you can look at Slow Airport or anywhere else on the map and see the features that they have. And then the built-in map is a really great feature. They're actually going to pull from our GIS data. If you recall, when we were here in December, we showed you the map of all of the free and paid spaces. So it'll look very similar to that. So visitors will be able to see where they can park for free and then be able to click. So you can see those icons on the map. They'll be able to click on any parking space and be able to see the rate and the terms of the parking. And it'll also predict availability based on, for the paid parking spaces, based on payment transactions in the app or by the closest pay stations. So visitors will be able to see, it'll show red if it's expected that there's no parking spaces on that block face, so we don't have so many people circling looking for parking. And then the pay by text feature is a really great feature for single visitors, people that are only coming one time. They don't have to download an app. They can just text that number. That also is functioning right now. So if you wanted to try it out, you can text that 727-563, and you just text the word Park Paso, and that'll be posted on all of our signs, and it'll allow you to pay for your parking again.
So you can drive downtown and see where the parking spots are, save some fuel.
Yep.
You could text in and payment.
Yep.
Stay at the dinner table or wherever you're at.
Exactly.
And then we're also offering the shared program with businesses to validate parking.
Yes. So the merchant validation program, as you can see on the pay stations, it'll have the list. And these are just examples our vendor pulled for us from local businesses. But any participating merchants would have their name on the pay station showing that they're have merchant validation in their businesses, and then it'll also be featured in the app.
And then when you, on the map, does it also show parking spaces outside of downtown or just in the?
Yes, it'll just show, we won't be able to predict availability because there's no tracking for that, but it will show that those are all unpaid parking spaces.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Frank? None? Okay. Councilman Bausch, any questions?
I do. I have a couple. The license plate reader technology that we've invested in, that will continue to function with Flowbird?
Yes, because Flowbird is our current vendor, so that will all work exactly the same way it does now.
Great. And then how many hours of the monthly 5-hour allocation will we be able to use at one time?
You can use up to the entire 5 hours. So if someone was coming for a day and wanted to spend their whole 5 hours, or they can do it in 1 hour increments. They can also use it on any license plate number. So there's no restriction on license plates. It's just per address.
So it's done by that code that they'll send once we sign up for it.
Exactly.
That's good to know. Good. Any thoughts on signage? We had talked to the last meeting about signage being confusing and whatnot. Is that still being discussed?
Yes, so actually with the storms, we haven't been able to update the permit signage, but we have already submitted a plan for that. So all the permit lot signs will be updated with new verbiage that says monthly permit parking. Also, we'll have a little QR code on it so it can show, so people can find the information to be able to purchase an employee permit if that's what they're looking for. So that should be updated soon. We're just waiting for staff availability to put those signs up.
Got it. Thank you. And then last question, merchant pricing. Can you run through that one more time for me?
Certainly. So merchants will be able to buy in bulk at 50% off. So for the rate of $2 per hour, they could buy 100 hours for $50. And then they just will get them on cards. So each individual code, they can just hand out the card to their customers, and then they can validate for their 1 hour parking.
So will be printing cards, like one-time use cards for the merchants to use? The city will print those cards, or how will that work?
So that's still being discussed by staff. The last time we did merchant validation, it wasn't widely used, but we actually sent the codes to the merchants who then could print their own cards. We've been discussing some options to just be able to print those for them. We'll have to look at pricing and determine what the best option is for that.
And then that reminded me of a question that came up earlier this week. Cost to the city using Flowbird. There'll be some fees involved. Have we gotten any further down the road as what exactly that will cost us, and how much revenue is projected from going to a $2 an hour parking?
I don't have specific revenue numbers. That was something our finance director was looking at, but I do have the costs. For our Flowbird contract, for our ongoing services, maintenance of the pay stations, the expected fixed amount will be approximately $67,000. And then we'll have variable transactions. There is a 25-cent transaction fee for any app or pay by text users. And that's a transaction fee no matter if they do 1 hour or 5 hours of parking, it's 25 cents. And then the merchant validation program, they're charging a 5 cents transaction fee. And then the local program, the same 5 cents per transaction.
And then what about the discount fee on the credit card transaction processing?
So we're looking at doing a merchant of record with Flowbird as well, just to streamline the process of the credit card transactions. That fee is 30 cents per credit card transaction and 3% plus 3% of the transaction. We currently have Chase Bank, and we pay them a merchant fee already. So I don't have the exact amount because that's been handled by finance, but we do already pay those credit card fees to Chase Bank.
And when you say we pay, the city absorbs those fees?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
One more question. Yeah. Councilman Gregg, go ahead.
Yeah. Is this, when you get the new signage up, is that something you could bring back to us in the first meeting in March so we could see it?
So you can see the...
this new signage you're putting up for the apps or for the parking?
Certainly. So we'll have the permit signs. I'm hoping those will go up right away before the first meeting in March, but we're certainly happy to bring you those.
And will you be putting those on the local newspapers so that everybody can see it happening and how they work and all that?
That's the discretion. That's usually not my area, but happy to
we'll ask the appropriate person. Thank you very much. Sorry. Go ahead.
Anything? I had a question on the Park Cinemas merchant validation. So we do offer, the city is giving the cinemas as a discount basically for 3 hours if they apply for it. Can you explain how that works, Don?
Certainly. So what we've done since the start of the paid parking program is they have an in-house tablet with our with the Flowbird back office system built into the tablet where they can validate parking, and the city has always subsidized that. We provide 3 hours of parking rather than the regular 2. So we're hoping that with the locals discount and the merchant validation programs that will cover that, but it is up to council's discretion whether you wanted to continue to subsidize Park Cinemas as an individual business.
Well, that's something we could discuss as well. And then you did, Councilman Balch asked that question I was looking for was the transaction fee and the cost that the city has to bear for every one of these transactions.
So the transaction fees on the application, that is up to council whether you want to absorb those costs. Most cities, the majority of cities across the United States, they pass that on to the user. So it's just if you use the app, you have an additional 25 cents on your parking transaction, or the city can subsidize that as well. The other fees would be paid for by the city, the credit card transactions.
And the other question, the final one I had was on the app itself, the people, the merchants that actually are going to be giving validation discount, they are actually listed on the app itself?
Yes, we can there'll be pinpoints on the map, so then the customer can click on those. There's only so much room on a cell phone screen, so it'll just be a little pinpoint on the map, and then they can click on it. It'll say, for example, Park Cinemas, movie theater, and have the details on what their merchant validation program is.
It's actually a promotion for them, too. So, thank you. I have no more further questions. Then moving on, we'll go ahead and open it up to public comment for this item in the chambers.
Dale Guston, as you know, I've been against paid parking, but looking at the screen that's up there now, and I don't use the apps on my phone, but I can manage without using the app, especially if I go to see a movie. I can just do it at the movie house. And John Roush has been very cooperative in providing that because some of his movies last more than 2 hours. And so I will be able to still see that for free. And I'll reserve anything to do with any other changes if they are to be presented tonight. There was a lot of seniors that have trouble with the system and apps, so hopefully this app will work better than the last one. Good luck.
Thank you, Dale. Anyone else? Unless anybody online.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wait, we have one more there. So go ahead, ma'am.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Angie. I've never done this before.
Right.
So are you guys are thinking about getting rid of the 2 hours free?
Yes.
Okay. First off, I'm a mom, and this has been really hard, the parking that you guys have right now. Because just with little ones, you're trying to like grab your phone and do all this stuff, and you look up and they're gone. And so it's been really challenging, and I feel like I'm just barely getting it. I've gotten multiple tickets. I lived in Paso my whole life, and I love this town. And I take my kids downtown probably like every day. We love the park. Every day after school, pick them up. We go to the park, the library. And so those 2 hours are very important to my family. 5 hours a month is not a lot. You have families who are using the park every day. So 5 hours, we could use up in 2 days. Also, multiple people living in a household, you're saying 5 hours for one address, right? So we have 3 adults that live in my home. We take our kids all over. So maybe that's 1 day for us. Sometimes we'll come down to the park and then we'll go home and we want to come back to the library. And so that would just use up a lot of our time. Another thing is my kids love to go to the park and then they see the yogurt shop. So they want to go over there. That adds more time. I just feel like there's not a lot for kids to do in this town, and just taking away that I don't have extra money to pay to go to the park. So that just would be detrimental to families. My notes. I think the 2 hours free right now is great. That's good. Also, I also have a business downtown, a barber shop. And so you figure you're adding more costs to the businesses to have them buy these passes, right? And also for a haircut, you don't know if you have an appointment, you walk in. So you'd have to pay to run in and see if there's availability for a haircut. Those 2 hours are huge because you could just log in, run in, see if there's an appointment, and then you can use that time, and it's like an hour for haircut. So I just feel like changing or limiting these hours can just be huge on families. And the families are what's important in this town. And we need to, I don't know, it's just hard. I feel really sad about this. But also I was thinking if you guys could open up this area right here in front of the park. I do notice that there's always open spots. Maybe make that where it's not paid parking. I mean, if you think a business might use that spot, they still have to walk a long ways. But for the parents, if they could use the park and the library for free, I feel like that'd be great. And that would be helpful to families if you just X'd out this part right here.
Okay.
And that's all.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Yeah, one more.
Hi, my name is Lori Swanson, Bluegill Drive, Paso Robles. A lot of what I said is in agreement with what she just said. Right now, if I park for 6 hours with the 2 free hours of parking, it's $4. 2 hours of parking taken away, 6 hours is going to be $12. We're going from $4 to $12 for the same amount of parking with the new plan. It's really clear that this plan doesn't seem to be at all geared to please or to promote or to help local residents. It's for the businesses. And I understand that that's what we want to do with tourism is bring money in. But tourists still leave gaps. Tuesdays and Mondays and Thursday mornings and stuff. And residents are going to not come to town anymore. It's just, somehow it seems like there could be a better balance of pleasing. I mean, this 5 hours of free parking, like I said, if you do the math there, it really doesn't add up to anything at all. There are things that I do that are going to be quick, and I'm going to have to pay $2 to run into the alternative health store, to, just do things that the tailor, things like that. And I'm not going to be using downtown anymore if I have to shell out $2 just to run in for 5 minutes to grab something, what have you. It's very unfortunate there's going to be the concerts in the park that used to be, something community oriented that brings this town together. And it seems like we're just trying to please the tourism, and there's so much more than tourism here. A couple questions I still have unanswered are, it looked like technically in the way it was written, that it was, in one sentence, it was city residents, and then another, it just said Paso Robles. Well, how about all of the people that live up in Heritage Ranch and Running Deer? We're county, we're not city. Are we excluded from the free?
Yes, you are.
We are.
Yeah.
So now all of us won't be coming down either because,
you do realize you could park a block and a half away.
Well, yeah, but okay, how about the recent storms? Would anybody want to walk? So see, and that's the attitude that I don't like. It's like flippant. It's like it doesn't matter.
Understood.
Okay, and then the thing about, these are hard times for people. People in their 20s, maybe a family in their 40s who bring mom-in-law whose dad just died. Now there's multiple people in a home with cars. So mom-in-law can't they have to divide up these 5 hours. They already amount to almost nothing per month in the pocket. It's just a shame, and I wish some of those things, as well as what the woman just brought up before me, would be reconsidered and just be a little more friendly for the residents here.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Melissa, do we have anybody online?
Yes, we do. First caller is Jan Albin.
Jan, welcome.
Hi, good evening, Council. Thank you. I'm Jan Albin. I'm a resident of Quail Run. I have 100 questions, quite honestly. And the first thing I'd like to say is I would like for the city council this evening to consider not taking a step in the direction of approving this to go forward for right now, because there's just too many unanswered questions. And while Donna did a nice presentation, and I appreciate that, we don't have numbers for specific revenue. We don't have, there's a lot of unanswered questions. And one of the questions I have is that when she said, when they were talking about the 25-cent a piece transaction fee and who's going to use that or who's going to absorb that, well, if the city absorbs it, then that's more cost for the city on top of a already very expensive program. And if I am going to absorb it, how are you going to get it from me? That means that you're saying that I'm going to have to enter a credit card so that I can be billed 25 cents every time I go down and use that code. So, I think there's just too many unanswered questions. And one of them, if I'm reading it correctly, every time you log in, you're literally you're using an hour. So that means that if I go run to, the natural food store, and I run in and pick something up and I'm there 10 minutes, I just burned an hour of one of my 5 hours. So I don't understand how this is going to encourage people to go downtown if they run in, pick up an order of food in 5 minutes, but they just lost an hour of their free parking that you so generously gave them for the parking or that we already paid for. And again, I'll go back to no numbers for specific revenue. I don't understand how you could possibly make a decision to sign a contract with this company and move forward on this item when you don't know if there's what the revenue is or even if there is any. And you want to sign a contract for another $67,000 a year on top of what we've already been paying for 4 years, and we still have a $700,000 deficit out of the general fund for this. I'm sorry. I think that there are still way too many unanswered questions, and I know without question you're going to have to spend considerable time and energy, staff time and energy, explaining to the people how this works. Because I've been on this for 3 days with some of the brightest minds here in this town, and we can't get a real clear view of how this is going to work for us. So I'm begging you to please not take a final vote on this, to get some more questions answered and bring it back so that there's a better, more complete presentation with numbers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan.
Next is Kathy Miller.
Mr. Miller, thank you. Come on. Are you online?
I'm here.
Ms. Miller.
Good evening, council members. Thanks for taking my call. I am a local resident who loves going downtown. We always describe that area as the soul of Paso Robles. Love having dinner down there, love concerts in the park. I do think what is being created really does discourage local residents from going down. I'll concur with the other speakers. The local option, the 5 hour a month, 1 hour at a time, is very complicated. Seems like a slap in the face to local residents. Eliminating the free hours, doubling the rate, all of this at one time when we're really struggling as a community, just seems like the wrong time for this, period. But I think it really, more than that, kind of really takes a swipe at that soul of our town, and I think that's unfortunate. Another question that I had, though, when I read the materials for tonight's meeting is there was something about senior parking and an online application that hasn't even been mentioned at all. So I'm just kind of curious where that sits on top of my other notes about, I think this really is a slap to local residents.
Great, thank you.
Next is John Almaguer.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, John Almaguer, resident of
John,
City
welcome.
of Paso Robles.
Yes,
Thank you.
go ahead.
I have to agree with what I heard. I heard Jan's comments while I was waiting online here, and I have to say I have to agree with her. I kind of feel that no action should be taken until more of this is resolved. But I do have a question on the merchant cards. Two questions actually. What happens between the time that you go into the business, get the card, submit it, and if the license plate reader goes by and reads your license plate and sees that you're not registered, do you still get a ticket? If you haven't sent your text in yet with the merchant card? And also, is the merchant card the same day only? Or can it be used for another day if you don't use it that day? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no other callers.
Okay. Donna, maybe you can give us some help here. It was hard hearing that last comment, but something about merchants, whether
Sure.
it's going to be
Actually,
automatic.
that was a great question. So one of the features along with the merchant validation is that there will be a 10-minute button on the app that allows people to quickly, and on the pay station. So it will be the app or the pay station will allow people to quickly park their car, start that 10 minutes, go in to get their merchant validation to start that session. So it's not much time. It just allows them just to get that so they don't get a ticket while they're trying to get their merchant validation.
I see.
So we will have that option as well.
Then we also had a question from Jan Albin about the login. If we log in for 1 minute, it's for 1 hour, whether you use it or not.
Yes. So just to clarify, because I know she had said something about the 25-cent transaction fee. That is for a mobile application, like if someone is paying for parking and starting a session on the mobile app. So again, that's something the city can subsidize, or we can charge when they're paying for parking. So that fee does not apply for the locals program. But for the 1 hour, yes, the locals discounts or the free hours will be in 1 hour blocks. I do encourage people to use those 30-minute spaces. That's why we have them, and we added more recently so that they're at the end of every block phase. Those are still free. You just have to be less than 30 minutes, and that's what those are designed for, so you can run in and not have to worry about paying for parking or doing anything else.
Okay.
So Donna, how many did we add? Was it 19 30-minute parking spots?
Yes, I think you are correct. I'm sorry. I have a lot of numbers running through my head at the moment, but I think it was right about 19 or 20 spaces that we added in addition to the ones that were already there.
Are you finished?
Yeah, we're close.
So I just wanted to ask a couple more questions, if I may.
Mhm.
So in the interest of the comment from the families, how many free parking spots are in the parking lot behind City Hall here?
City Hall free spaces. I'm sorry. We have,
I think there's like 30.
oh no, they're, because
more.
we made the whole lot free, so we did have 40 permit spaces in the City Hall lot. And about, if I remember correctly, and I'm sorry if I'm not exact, but about 75 that were unpaid. So now we have a little over 100 spaces that will be, it's free parking.
Those will all be free.
Those are all free. And those signs have already been removed, so that's
Okay. And then
currently.
on Spring Street, everything on the west side is free as well?
Correct. So we actually have, within walking distance between 6th and 14th, Vine and Railroad, basically, so the downtown area, we have over 1,800 free parking spaces.
1,800?
Mm-hmm.
And I was concerned mostly about for the park, or the users of the park with families, so they could park in the parking lot behind City Hall for free.
Correct.
Go through and use the park. And then for those people who are just wanting to drop somebody off or small little 5-minute or 15-minute stops, we have 19 30-minute parking spots downtown now?
Actually, the total number, because that was additional, so we have 35 total 30-minute spaces. They're basically on the ends of each block face that face businesses.
Okay.
So we do have all of those as well.
And then someone asked a question about senior parking. Is what's happening with that program?
So the senior parking program is going to remain unchanged unless council requests anything. We had no intention of changing that. We had a lot of requests last year to be able to have an online application option. So if you recall, we have always just done the paper applications. We have them available for seniors to pick up at multiple locations. And so we're just going to add, as part of this process, we're updating all of the technology anyway. So we'll add that additional option to be able to apply online at the same time that you can do the paper ones.
So Dale would qualify for that, right?
And they do.
Thank you.
They do have to qualify, and there is a cost.
They do have to qualify. I did hear the question about the city residents, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for answering that. That was based on the city attorney recommendation when we established the senior permits, that they do have to be residents of the city within the city limits.
Yes. Okay. All right, Dale, go ahead and make one more question, then we'll bring it back to council.
2 questions. The first one is, I don't know what happens if on that screen you push no. What happens?
Okay, that's first question. Go ahead.
And
we'll get that.
I've seen nothing in this presentation that says the 2 hours free parking that now exists is being changed. And as I said before, I'm against paid parking. I presented a plan in Pleasanton for time parking in 2018 to this council. It's the same time every seminar or gathering that Julie Dixon presented, I argued against paid parking, showing how it worked in Pleasanton with time parking only. And yet, only 2 councilmen were willing to consider that at the last meeting, and they got outvoted. I think your attitude towards the locals is bad. With 3 motorcycles, a motorhome, 2 boats, and 3 vehicles, you think I could find a residence inside the city limit so I could get a senior pass? I don't think so.
All right. One more question. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Your name, please, again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Lori Swanson, Bluegill, Paso Robles. I just wanted to make sure I understood on the application. It has to be filled out every month, or is it on the app it renews every month for the following month, or what?
We'll get that question. Donna's, we'll get that for you.
Okay, and then I just wanted to say, I don't know how those get processed, but it seems like that's a lot of paperwork every single month. And doesn't that kind of eat up some of what, I don't know, what it's bringing in?
Okay, thank you. Donna, can we get these questions? The first one, I guess, then is the renewal.
So if you press no on the merchant validation, it's just going to take, you don't have a code, so it's going to take you back to the original payment screen to start a parking session. For the local application, we're, in part of our recommendations, we're looking for a 12-month local pilot. So it would be a single application for those locals, and then it just automatically gets reloaded, that code, for the 5 hours every month on the first of the month. So it's something, the technology already does it for us. So there would not be any staff time with that. We would have a business rule where as people move in and out of the city all the time. So throughout the year, people can apply for that locals discount at any time, but it would have to be by the 15th of the month to be able to start on the first of the following months, just so we have the time to process those applications.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
That was it, right?
Okay. I'm going to go close the public comment then, and we'll bring it back to council for discussion. And
Mayor Pro Tem, I have a couple more questions, if I may.
Yeah, Chris, well, we'll go ahead and start that right now. That's our side to get into it with staff. So if you like, go ahead and proceed with your questions.
So I heard a couple thoughts and comments that made me think a little bit. if merchants can buy, local merchants can buy discounted parking, any chance of expanding that to allow residents to buy discounted parking? Number two, the 30-minute parking, the existing ones and then the 19 that were added, how are those monitored? I've had a couple of comments or observations from people that it's really an honor system. They don't think it's being enforced at all. Is there an enforcement mechanism? Then the third point, Donna mentioned having a 10-minute button to push. I'm going to run inside and pick up, I'm going to go see John Roush at the theater, and he's going to give me a parking validation coupon. Could we use that same 10-minute button to run in and pick up something from any merchant and be on the honor system to leave within 10 minutes? And if so, how would that be enforced? And then the last thing, for seniors that are just, or anybody that doesn't have internet or is technologically challenged or doesn't have a smartphone, is there a place that they could come into the city and be given one-to-one assistance by one of our employees?
Okay, Chris, we'll go ahead and start. Donna, if you can remember those.
Sure. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. So for the senior application, yes, that was actually the original purpose of the senior program, was seniors maybe not so comfortable with technology. So those are paper applications. We're just adding the optional online option for those seniors that do want that ease of being able to do it from their own home rather than coming in and getting the paper application.
And are those, I'm sorry, Donna, are those applications available in Spanish as well?
We did not have those in Spanish last year. That would be an easy enough process. I personally don't speak Spanish, so I will have to find someone to help create that form, but we could certainly do that as well. Right. And those paper applications, just for the public, those will be available starting March 1st. We have them usually at the senior center, the city library, and the police department. So, and then we also have them online. You can print them. So those are going to be available March 1st for anyone to walk in and pick those up.
Great, thank you. Okay.
As far as the 10-minute button, this is a brand new feature that Flowbird is offering, so we're still doing a little bit of testing and trying out on it. They've implemented it in New York City. It really is for the specific purpose of someone being able to get the time to start their parking session if they have the merchant validation. It certainly could be used. We're not going to track how they're using it, whether they are just running in. I would really caution people to use that, only because I've been doing parking long enough that everyone says I was only there for 5 minutes. And they, in that 5 minutes, generally, we're a small town, you run into someone, you're talking to someone, and it turns into 45 minutes, and then they come back and they have a parking ticket. So it really should be that very quick, I know I'm running in, but yes, that would be available for any purpose. The next question was on the 30-minute enforcement. We do have the capabilities of enforcing those, and we do. Our enforcement staff has written a significant number of tickets in those spaces. When we use our LPR system, it will track when that, as soon as the vehicle is scanned, that it's there. And so then enforcement returns anytime after that 30 minutes. If the same vehicle is still in that space, they'll receive a citation.
Okay.
And then expanding the merchant validation to locals, the merchant validation is a little more labor intensive. We'll have to get those cards and those codes. It's not really something that I would think we would be able to do for 12,000 households, I think. And then we do also have to remember that anytime we're offering a locals program, The locals program is for every local, as it should be. That also includes downtown employees. And so if you remember, the original purpose of the program was to keep those downtown employees out of the core area, get them into the employee parking lots, or at least a few blocks away from the businesses. And so if we start giving too much free time or too much discounted parking, we're going to have that same problem where the employees are right back on street. So did I answer all of your questions, sir?
Chris, any more questions for Donna? Chris?
Sorry, Donna, yes, you did. Great job in answering the questions. I would like to bring up at some point further discussion on locals being able to buy or participate in that similar merchant program. I think that might have some traction. It's not going to be for everybody, but at least weigh the pros and cons, let council come back and see that's something we can offer. I think along with, better publicization of where the free parking is, there's still a lot of free parking around downtown that doesn't seem to get filled up all the time. And this is still a work in progress, but I appreciate your efforts. Thanks for answering my questions.
Okay, questions from any other councilman here? I'd like to actually make a comment myself, but what I'd like to, I think, initially do here is get consensus from the board if we're going to move forward with it or not. And then I think staff is asking us for some fine tuning tonight, if possible. So maybe start off with a comment either way.
Well, I think one of the things that's really important to do is, as we go into this, I think it's important to review it 90 days down the road to see how it's working, if we accept this, so that we can make modifications. My personal concern was the senior parking program. If that's still in place, that's a big deal to me, because this is the population that has most difficulty in operating our kiosks, and I think that's really nice. Having more spaces downtown closer to the park is important to me. And I really like the 30-minute parking, because that resolves a lot of the issues of having to go in and get your my vitamin D3 at the natural food store or whatever. I believe there's a lot of parking. No plan is perfect. I think it's a pretty decent starting place, but I think that we need to be able to adjust. And maybe one of the things that Mr. Bausch was mentioning, maybe even expanding more hours for the locals. We can deal with that down the road if we need to. Otherwise, I think the plan is pretty viable, because we can actually pay for the parking program and get some money back into the community to help with parking, with whatever we do, bring up trolleys or whatever we're going to do to help offset our parking issues, and eventually a parking structure that might work. So I think this is definitely the right direction. I think it's really important to continue to work the program, but I think for the most part, the people that I've talked to are mostly concerned. We're almost all seniors about this program, and as we move along, those of us who are residents will have to figure out how to make it work for ourselves, or we can make amendments or changes in the future. So I like the program. I think it's a good money source for us. So that's all I have to say.
Very good. Councilman Strong?
Yeah, well, I'll admit I'm getting very frustrated. If we want to be a national example of something, I think we're rapidly, with this program, becoming the best national example of bureaucracy, because it's a mess. Not only that, as was mentioned, the original purpose was to get the employees to stop parking in front of their businesses and blocking up the streets. Okay, but that was a success problem partially. We used to have a vacant downtown. We had boarded up businesses. Now we have all kinds of, we have a parking problem because we have business success downtown. Well, that in itself should have the merchants themselves telling their employees, stay away, so we can have these people actually parking and coming in buying things, and you can keep your job that way. I think that's a much better solution than this. Most of the money that we're going to be collecting, and why we're having to increase it, is to pay for the program. So if you have a program to pay for itself, but it's not doing anything else of benefit to people, it doesn't make sense to me at all, as it hasn't all the way through. If we want to go back to timed parking, I see no problem with that. Minimum expense in that way, and you can still control the employee thing to some extent. That doesn't mean people can just park all day and not move their cars around, or not, they have to be sensible. Legally, I'm told we can't extend benefits beyond our city limits, and yet 40% of the use of our businesses in our city comes from outside our city limits, within our zip code. So that doesn't make sense to me either. Frankly, this whole thing doesn't make sense to me at this point. I'd rather see us go back to time parking and try to figure that out properly. The other purpose for raising the fees was to raise money for more parking, for a parking facility. But we admit it's going to take us 10 to 15 years at least to have enough money to build that. 10 to 15 years from now, technology will be such that a lot of these cars are going to be automated. People aren't going to be driving their own cars. The cars will be driving you. And those will be so expensive, most people aren't going to own a car anymore. They're going to either jointly own one because of the expense, or they're just going to dial up a service that provides you with a ride that doesn't even have a driver, but it's safer than we are ourselves behind the wheel because it reacts faster. And those are all the things I'm trying to think of in the total future of this program. I don't see it serving a good purpose for this city at this point. I'm sorry. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have parking and parking regulations. But I think technology in this, and the cost of technology, and the fact that we have to even update this technology just a couple of years after having bought it originally, is a good sign that this isn't going to work financially in the long run. That's my problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Nell. My comments, again, on benefits, I think there's many, actually. The fact that people can go downtown and actually find a parking space these days, that they can park near their place where they want to go, is important to me. Available parking spaces, again, is something that we didn't see years ago before we had this problem, and I think we've solved that. I've had many people comment about the fact that they can actually find a space when they need it. Revenue source, again, no one's going to pay for a parking structure if you don't have paid parking on the street. So it's the first step in managing our spaces. There is no such thing as a free parking space. Someone paid for that asphalt, someone pays for it to be maintained. And again, the local merchants, now that we have a program that I'm very happy to see, have a way to discount the merchants' sale. So if somebody comes in and trades with them, they have a way of giving back to the person who actually had to pay on the street. I think that's, again, a good benefit for everybody concerned. Again, it's one of those things where nothing's perfect. And again, we've had testimony that our Way to Park app has gone out of service, which seems like everything out of electronics these days has some sort of a termination point. But from what I understand, that this new system that we're looking at tonight is a widely distributed and widely used across the nation. So it sounds like it's more solid. Has a lot of more opportunities there for things that we can actually make benefit to our Roblins on too. So again, I think what I'd like to know is that if we have consensus that we want to try this further, the staff is asking for refinements. For instance, like the transaction fees. I'd like to maybe hear some comments of council on that with regard to, well, who should pay for that? Should that be on the city's side of the nickel, or should it be the user's side? Councilman Gregory, what do you have on that?
I would have to say put it on the user side, but I don't know I don't know the statistics, and I think the primary user of this program are going to be visitors, quite frankly. So that would be my inclining on that part of it.
Okay. Brett, do you have a choice at all?
Not really, because no matter how you do it, the cost is going to go up somewhere. If we pay for it, then we don't have as much money to do what you want to do with the fund eventually. If we have somebody else pay for it, whoever's paying for it has to raise their own prices in whatever income bracket they have in order to recover that money so they can pay for it. And that if it's a merchant that's paying for the parking, he's got to raise the prices on his product. And we still just keep raising prices.
Okay.
I don't really have an opinion one way or another.
No opinion on that. Okay. Chris Bausch?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Back to your previous question, I think we've had enough questions. I would not mind seeing council decide to table this and ask staff to bring it back to answer some of these questions, including the one you're asking now about who gets to pay for the fees. I would like to see that in revenue projection that we are missing at this point, when they could come back perhaps both ways, as if the city absorbed that fee, all fees, some fees, the client paying some of those fees. I'd like to see a revenue projection. I would like to see if we can bring back a discussion on timed parking in lieu of this. I'm in complete agreement with Councilmember Strong that might be time to go back and look at something like that. I don't think we're in a good, strong position to vote on this yet. I like parts of what I'm seeing. I like a lot, and other parts I'm still not convinced this is the best thing for Paso Robles local citizens. I think we need to keep that in mind.
Okay, Chris. We're basically a 4-member board here tonight.
So
yeah.
I just want to put a little bit of context to all of this for the council and the community. Council voted at the last meeting to raise the rates. So that's in the program as it is. So if you want to modify that, you can direct staff to bring something back and we can modify that. That's where all the revenue projections were regarding how much income this would bring in, or not, or revenue, I should say. And so that question's been asked and answered technically. If you want us to bring it back, we will. If you want to modify the program. The reason that all of these fees become a discussion point today and decision points regarding the app is because we won't have an app in short order here. So if you want to direct us to suspend the program until we can figure this out, that's okay. But just keep in mind that the further that we continue these discussions, the more confusion it's going to cause for the community, the more revenue that's going to be eliminated from the parking program. There will be consequences, I guess, is the reminder on this. Those consequences we can mitigate, we can accept, but I just want to remind the council that that yes, if you bring this back and we do more analysis, we do have Mr. Cornell on the line. He can speak to he can remind you of some of the projections that we had from last time, if council thinks that will help the discussion go along. But for every fee that the city absorbs, that means that less revenue for the program, which will obviously skew the numbers. So that's the message I wanted to deliver.
Okay. Chris Bausch, if you would like to hear something from Ryan Cornell, would that help you tonight?
Yeah, it would. I'm not sure if he's ready to present the questions I have. What happens if we come up with revenue projections based on status quo? Then what would happen if we did something, if we added parklets back into the program? Does that skew the numbers one way or the other? Are we going to add parklets back in? That's still an unknown, I think, at this point. And then also a point that I tried to make at the last meeting that we discussed this, I don't think I would be opposed to the revenue stream as long as 100% of it went towards a potential future parking structure. And we have decided, I think, that that's not possible. We have to pay for all the expenses. Council does not want those expenses coming out of the general fund. So, yeah, if Ryan can answer those questions, great. If not, then I stand by my point that tabling this might be the right thing to do tonight and bring those back at a later date.
Ryan, are you available?
Yes, hi, Councilmember Hammond and Bosch. Thank you for the question. So specific answers to the parklets, no, that wasn't part of the analysis that was conducted at the end of December. But one of the biggest challenges that we have with revenue projections is to truly know how many parking sessions we have. Right today, with the 2 free hours of parking, we don't know if someone is staying 15 minutes or 2 hours. And so when we kind of were projecting out our financial analysis back in December time, we assumed that on average, a customer would say about an hour to an hour and a half. And we kind of were basing all of our revenue projections off of there. With the specific per transaction fees, right, no matter if the transaction is $2 or $4, it's still the same, like 25 cents or the same 30 cents if it's a merchant. So if we base that kind of on the hour and a half, we kind of are assuming that the revenues would be, $2 and or $3 an hour, roughly there, and then we're taking 25 cents off of that. And so that's kind of how we did the analysis back in December time. And if you were only to charge the $1 an hour, those transaction fees were taking up too much of that dollar. But if you were charging at the $2 an hour rate, the revenue should exceed all of the merchant fees at that point in time.
Chris, any more questions for Ryan?
I'm not hearing the answer I want to hear, and I think the citizens want to hear. How many dollars is that? And I don't mean to be flip about it. I apologize, Ryan. That's not fair to you. But for me to make a good decision, I need to know what the dollar amount that we're going to raise, what it's going to cost, and until then, I'm just not comfortable making that decision.
I can provide the chart that was provided to council's presentation in December time that showed the different scenarios at the current rate, the $1 an hour, the $2 an hour, the $3 an hour. Those had preliminary projections as far as what we think the number of sessions are. But again, it was difficult to know how many true sessions we're going to anticipate in any given year. That's why we're kind of more trying to look at a per transaction cost and look at it at a $2 an hour versus that 25 cents and look at just trying to drill down to that per.
Is it a $2 an hour cost, or is it a $1.75 if we take the merchant fee out? Those are things that I'm curious. And if you think they're minimal, fine, tell me they're minimal, but I think they add up over time.
Well, 25 cents off of $2 an hour is right around 10%. So I think that's the plus or minus on a very high level if we want to absorb those fees or not.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead, Councilman.
So, Chris, this is Councilman Gregory. So the intent was to basically our app is gone. We have to start over. So before us, we have an agreement to put together paying the fee for the year. And my question to staff is that if there's some of the things that like Chris is trying to clarify on the fee or whatever on that, I think it's important to consider moving ahead with agreeing with the agreement and then fine tuning. We do have a meeting, probably one more meeting before March 1st, where we could talk about who's going to pay the 25-cent fee or whatever. I remember the numbers that Ryan was showing us, and the $2 an hour plus the cost taken out comfortably paid for the program. I think that one of the things I didn't realize at the time is that the senior parking program is in this offer also, and we have the merchant buyback, and you have an hour limitation of 5 hours a month per the employee, not employees, but the citizens. But those are all things that we could look at. We can make changes at that. What we can't do is if we stop this right now, we have no parking program at all. And the very reason for doing this program in the first place, speaking from being a merchant down myself back in the day this started, is we didn't have any parking for our customers because it was taken up by employees. They are not going to change their habits. If they get free parking, they're going to take out the customer spots. So I think it's really important to try to work with what we have. We did approve the idea in the last meeting on the parking, and we're very much closer to it than I thought we were, because I didn't think we were going to have a senior program. And also you have the free parking for the citizens that's subject to change at our approval. So my question to you, Chris, and I guess everybody is, I think we need to move this ahead so we can streamline the program and make it work and give it a try. The last app wasn't as good as we'd wanted it to be, but this is a nice improvement, and I might even start using it myself. I never have used the app, so that's my 2 cents worth. But Chris, you think about that question?
Well, I have used the app since its inception. I think the app works great. Used it yesterday morning. Still works. I'm having trouble with tweaking this now. Listening to some of the comments tonight about the 5 hours, would you be willing to increase the 5 hours tonight?
Donna, you want to explain that then further?
If we increase the 5 hours to 8 hours, or?
So that is at council's discretion. Yeah. Staff was recommending the 5 hours based on when we presented in December, we looked at the average length of stay. We were approximating an hour and 15 minutes each visit. So that's 4 visits a month, a visit a week, basically. And so that's what we were recommending. Again, if we offer more hours, those additional hours are going to be offered to our downtown employees as well as our locals. Our vendor can follow any business rule that we decide.
Again.
Yeah, so just from my point of view, to me, the 5 hours or more than that is not going to really affect the program in the beginning, and it's all something we could always modify it if it's hurting us. So,
well, yep. Again,
how do you measure the hurt if people aren't using it? And the same question that has been asked in the past on the 2 hours. How do you measure it when people don't come down?
Yeah.
How do you quantify that?
Good question.
Go ahead, Brett.
I have a question on the app. Now, aren't we changing apps because we had the free parking for 1 hour? And that was the only app that could handle that and then have paid parking after the hour. And the new apps, these apps are now being totally eliminated. So how is the new app going to handle it if we still have free parking and paid parking combined?
Can't.
So you're correct. We went with the Way to Park app originally. It was the only app that would offer that free time and not charge us a transaction fee.
Right.
So because we couldn't have somebody start a free 2-hour session and charge them 25 cents or 50 cents for a transaction fee. It didn't make fiscal sense. So that is why we selected Way to Park app at the time. So you're correct. None of the apps will allow us to do free parking sessions without a transaction fee. Most of them will develop where we can have an hour free or 2 hours free, just like we do now, but we will then have to subsidize that fee because a visitor is not going to pay 25 cents for a 2-hour free parking session.
Right. So we're increasing our own costs in order to give any free parking at all.
Mr. Strong, the Way to Park app is being eliminated. It's no longer being supported by the company. There was two cities in the United States that were using it, and one of them is gone, and they're telling us they're not going to support it. So our other option would be not to use any apps and just let people use the kiosks, which is another option as well.
And I understand that, but it changes the whole texture of the cost versus the income. And that's one of the reasons you have to raise costs, because our costs are going up. So all we're doing is, in my opinion, it just looks like we're trying to figure out how to pay for a program that if we just eliminated the program, we'd be in the same position.
So to me, this app is another form of paid parking. You're going to have to get paid parking to pay for your costs.
So, question to you, Donna. Again, we were granted, I think, extra time from Way to Park, apparently, to keep the app going.
We were. They actually discontinued the app in December, the week before Christmas. And so as a city manager advised the other, because there were only 2 cities left, the other city has been discontinued by the vendor. Because of our relationship with them, with our purchase of the kiosks and our longstanding relationship, they have been willing to continue to extend it, even though the app is no longer supported. But they're not doing any updates to the app. Any new phones currently, if you went out and bought a brand new phone right now, the app doesn't work on them.
I see.
So they are not updating the technology.
So
and
the
there
main
will be a
question,
cutoff.
first question you're asking council to make a decision on tonight is to renew the contract with Flowbird rather than continuing as we are, correct?
Correct. So our contract expired with Flowbird, and so we do still have the hardware. We have 35 meters in our downtown that run on their cloud-based server and with their Wi-Fi services and their payment processing. So we are using their services and we don't have a contract with them right now. So we are asking to have that contract renewed.
Okay.
So, Chris, how many hours do you want a month? What would make you more favorable for the program?
That's me.
No, Chris. Mr. Bausch.
I may not be online.
Are you there?
If we added 10 hours, excuse me, or increased it, and we doubled it to 10 hours, I think that would be a place to start to see what impact that would have on everybody that's been using and used to doing 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
We heard lots of reasons why that was good for some, not so good for others, when 15 minutes would do. But if we did, some people, I have 3 drivers in my house, and sometimes they use the parking app, sometimes they park and they walk. I think I just don't see going from a potential of 60 hours a month down to 5 hours a month. It seems like too drastic of a cut.
Yeah. I like the 10-hour one, and I'll tell you why. Because we used to have 2 hours free parking. So if we go to 10 hours, we try it out and see how it works and see how it fits in most people's schedules, and we'll get feedback. I'd rather have that because most of the money on the parking is going to be from tourism anyway. And so it's a good way to give our citizens a chance to park more downtown. I don't think the number of hours, we're already giving free parking to the seniors. We have several parking spots downtown. You got the 30-minute parking spots, 10 hours I'd be in favor of that.
Can we go further? And I think there's a limit on the number of senior permits that we offer. Can we increase that amount as well?
What are we limited to right now, Donna?
Council voted last year for a limit of 500.
I need to defer to the city attorney on whether that's an action we would be taking tonight on the senior program.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. The senior program is not actually on your agenda tonight specifically, so that's something we could come back and talk about
So we could bring
later.
that back in the next meeting? Okay.
The only items before you tonight are related to the new Flowbird contract and then the specifics of the validation program and the locals program.
Right.
Right. Those 3 items, what you're asking for us to move forward with tonight or not.
So Chris.
Can we split this? I mean, I can vote on the Flowbird contract, but then you need specific parameters.
Well, then we
probably
go.
not. I'm looking at, we can probably do that, huh?
We can also bring the senior program back to the next meeting, Chris, as part of the motion.
I mean, I heard Attorney Hull. Yeah, and I concur with that.
Well, how about, I'll make
so if we do the 10 hours instead of the 5, we would also be able to bring back a discounted locals program as well at the next meeting?
Well, at least for discussion, yeah.
Right.
I don't care. Yeah.
Okay.
Councilman Gregory, if you want to make a motion, let's take a stab at it and see what we can do here.
Is there an actually written motion?
Just these three right here.
Okay. So,
We don't actually want to table this first. Can I make a motion to table? You can defeat it if you want, but I think there's a lot of people out there that think we should table this.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay.
So I will motion to table item K2.
Okay, we have a first by Bausch, a second by Strong. Let's go ahead and make a motion then.
Councilmember Bausch?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Councilmember Gregory?
no.
Mayor Pro Tem Hammond?
No.
So,
It dies for lack of.
The motion
fails.
died.
Right, so that motion
So-
fails, so we need a substitute motion, a second motion, not a substitute, sorry,
so the second motion?
second motion.
So I move that we authorize the city manager to execute contract renewal with Flowbird.
Three separate motions.
Approve, okay, let's do that first.
Okay.
3 separate motions? Okay.
Okay, let's do that. We have a first and I'll
Yeah,
second.
so I move it.
Yeah. So we have a first by Gregory and Hammond as a second.
Councilmember Gregory?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hammond?
Aye.
Councilmember Bausch?
No.
Councilmember Strong?
No.
Motion fails.
So even with those changes, Chris, you don't want to approve that, right?
Many unknowns.
Okay, yeah, he's already voted.
Okay.
So then the second one is to approve a discounted merchant validation program. I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Second for Gregory. Discussion? Go ahead.
If you approve that with the other one having failed, you're going to put this thing more in debt, not less.
I don't know that we can do that, that we can even do a validation program without having a contract in place with the people that would be taking care of the validations. So really at this point, from an operational standpoint, there won't be any parking enforcement from this point forward. No, I shouldn't say parking enforcement, but it would appear that we have no contract with anybody to manage our program. So we'll have to go back to the drawing board at this point.
So I have a technical question for that. So what happens to the contract? Do we have 30 days to sign that, or?
So I believe our current contract is expired, is it not?
Our current contract is expired, yes.
So without this renewal, you will have no contract, you will have no vendor to operate your kiosks in your program.
Right.
So you will have no paid parking program at all.
Okay.
Other than the kiosk, actually the kiosks won't. No, they
I
won't
don't
work.
believe the
anyhow.
kiosks will
Right.
continue to work without the Flowbird contract.
Yeah, based upon that information, we'd notify the vendor and they'd likely start collecting their materials and we would go from there.
So are the kiosks ours? We own those?
Donna, yeah, I believe we own them. However, their software operates them and they maintain them.
And so it's about $40,000 a month. That income would just go away.
Yeah, the entire program would essentially go away.
Yeah. So do you understand that, Mr. Bosch?
I do.
Okay.
You
So
want to try another?
I move that we continue this to what's our next meeting date that you're going to be back in town?
First,
The 17th?
21st.
21st. I move we table this until the 21st of February.
Second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by
Council, I'll really need some clarification on what you want us to bring back because I am very confused on what we're going to even be discussing.
Well, that's a good question. Ask Mr. Bausch what he wants.
I repeat it.
Yeah, Chris, staff is looking for
They're looking for
clarification on
direction.
what they need to work on.
So I want a more defined revenue projection. I want to know how this relates if we add parklets. I want to know how that changes. Can we direct the revenue stream to be solely towards a parking structure? I want to know what the cost benefit analysis is on time parking versus paid parking. Is that clear enough, Mr. Gregory?
Okay, and then how do you pay for paid parking maybe? That'd probably be an important part of that.
Certainly staff would be wise to consider that, yes.
Okay. And I think
So we're essentially, you want us to create a new parking program models for you to consider, is what I'm hearing. You're no longer council, the majority of the council isn't satisfied with the current model, and you want to strike everything and go back.
so. The other
That's
option.
not what I'm saying, Mr. Lewis.
I don't. Yeah.
Not at all.
The other
Not at
option
all.
is.
Hang on, Chris. Go ahead.
The other option is we don't have a majority of the council here. We were missing a council person.
Exactly.
Is to table this to come back. And earlier, Chris, you talked about maybe making it 10 hours. You want to see the financial statistics to provide for the program. What else did you say on that list?
So we have the per transaction fee, and we have a credit card discount fee or merchant fee.
And those are all related to this program.
Sure, we're happy to do all that analysis, just realizing that this is really throwing something at the dartboard, because at this point we have no idea, based upon our current system, we give 2 hours free. We don't know if they stay for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. So the model will have several assumptions, which we'll disclose to council based upon our best knowledge of parking in the vicinity.
So perhaps we could have those assumptions based on 1 hour parking sessions, 5 hour parking sessions, or, per month, and 10 hours per month. Is that possible?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Question.
Go ahead, Strong.
Do we have any time limits at all now?
We have paid parking.
Do we have any time limits on your paid parking?
Time limits based on prescribed parking limits. Yes, we do.
So if they pay for it, they can park there all day.
And many do.
Right now?
And many do.
Wow. That defeated the whole purpose.
Well, again, we're going to go ahead and move this into a date certain. When's our next calendar date for February 21st? Okay, call for the vote. Yep.
Councilmember Gregory?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Councilmember Balch?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hammond?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a break, please. 5 minutes.
See you last item.
Let's go ahead and bring the meeting back to order here. We have item L next on our list. We have a deferred item from the Uptown Town Center that was postponed or deferred. So now we have the city manager's report. Ty Lewis.
I'm going to turn the microphone over to Elizabeth. Didn't you have a legislative, or was that? We're going to do that next time. I'm sorry. Nope, no report, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now we're up to council business and committee reports. Councilman Strong.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's a long report this time. So I'm going to pass these down, and one for the city clerk. And then here's these two for down here. And I'll read them for the rest of the room. I flew to Washington, D.C. for the National Association of Regional Councils, NARC's, National Council of Regions, on Saturday the 21st, and met with elected officials from StanCog and Modesto on mutual policy and project interests. StanCog is supporting our Union Road at 46 East project. On Sunday the 22nd, I met with leadership from around the nation and had dinner with California regional leaders from the Valley and Southern California, as well as national staff members to discuss lobbying efforts and national policies. Monday morning, I heard from the executive directors of both the National League of Cities and the National Association of Counties, NACO. Then had a private meeting with the executive directors of both NARC and National League of Cities on my starting to represent the National League of Cities on the NARC board of directors beginning later this year. Maya McGinnis, president of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, reminded us that the debt ceiling is driven by obligations already created by previous spending legislation, but does not mitigate the continued need for infrastructure, defense, and ongoing federal program funding, such as Social Security and Medicare. Next, we heard from Housing and Urban Development and the Department of Transportation leadership on Thriving Communities, a new program for technical assistance regarding the bipartisan infrastructure law and getting the most we can get out of it. I then chaired the Transportation Committee meeting, which was mostly a report from our lobbyists on existing programs and possible changes as we go forward, followed by a robust discussion of local efforts and difficulties in meeting our local needs. However, it did allow me to emphasize the importance of having current transportation policies and funding aligned with future transportation needs, including spaceports, allowing me to use the Union Road overcrossing of Highway 46 East as an example. Many other areas were over the remaining days of the conference, including the new local governments in the Supreme Court organization representing the local governments in the Supreme Court, a ruling that freedom of speech does not apply to government speech, the launch of the new economic census on March 31st by the Census Bureau, and the importance of responding to the questions. Failure to do so could cost us federal funds and increase local business taxes. Recreation on federal and other public lands is providing $13.5 billion in visitor spending, which supports 168,300 jobs. Provision of $300 million more for senior lunches and meals on wheels, with a new program for senior meals at restaurants about to launch. Grants available through the National Aging and Disability Transportation Center, having $50 million in grants available for senior centers. And finally, a report from two congressmen, one from each party, stating that the divisiveness in D.C. is almost exclusively between the publicity-seeking leadership and does not exist very much among the standard rank-and-file members. Additional information obtained I'm sharing with our city's leadership and staff. My final meeting was the board of directors, where I currently represent all of the regional governments of California. We updated the bylaws to give past presidents a more inclusive role and spent significant time discussing the coarsening of public discourse and disrespect for elected officials at our meetings and on social media. There were numerous suggestions on how to respond or not on both individual and organization levels. I returned Wednesday in time for my California League of Cities meeting of the Housing, Community, and Economic Development Policy Committee. The first meeting was mostly informational, especially for new members. However, we endorsed with minor amendments 2023 advocacy priorities to increase and expand investments to prevent and reduce homelessness, increase the supply and affordability of housing while retaining local decision-making, improve public safety in California communities, and safeguard essential local revenues and support fiscal sustainability. We supported an initiative to make local regulatory laws, planning, zoning, and resources supersede state law within our local jurisdictions when the two are in conflict. On Friday, I participated in the Revenue and Taxation Policy Committee, where the chair asked myself and one other member, whom he designated the senior honored committee members, to share our economic principles for decision-making. I shared the first priority for revenue and taxation is to provide what is needed for the basic services we are required to provide for the citizens in our jurisdiction with as much equity and fairness as is possible. Also, to beware of possible unintended consequences of our proposed actions. We adopted the same advocacy priorities as Thursday's committee did. We heard summaries of bills and initiatives affecting our committee and are carefully watching a few of them, including a bill to eliminate the gas tax, including our local share used for road maintenance and repair. A bill exempting affordable housing units from property taxes, which fund local services, but not exempting their profit from the state income tax. An initiative to outlaw citizen advisory committees that oversee local government spending of tax money, and their creation as a ballot measure when a tax increase is proposed. We also heard from a senior analyst in the Legislative Analyst's Office on the governor's proposed budget. She disagrees with the amount of the revenue reduction in 2023 and with some of the spending reductions. The LAO's overview of the governor's budget can be accessed on the internet. Finally, on Friday afternoon, I attended the California Association of Councils of Governments Board of Directors meeting, which was mostly informational about the upcoming Regional Leadership Forum in Riverside, as well as pending legislation, amendments being proposed to the Brown Act regarding virtual meetings and staffing updates. And that concludes my report, which does not include engagement with constituents, planning for additional communication, and meetings or social events. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Strong. Councilman Gregory.
Yeah, last Thursday, I met with the ECHO folks and the local community businesses, and our police department was in attendance also. And we actually had a really good attendance this time. We had 3 different hotel properties and 1 business owner. It was very, very fruitful. It was a little difficult at times, but we're getting more and more support in that area. ECHO's reaching out and doing a pretty good job. And we all need to do more on homelessness, but I think we're doing very well. ECHO's statistics are really doing well, and I think that with a little effort between the businesses and ECHO and our community, we'll continue to help the problems in that neighborhood for the businesses there. And then my only other comment, I'd like to thank our public safety staff, our public works department, for continuing to make our town come back together nicely. Every day I drive by a new place that gets fixed up, and I just really appreciate what everybody's doing to help our town get back together after the storm. That concludes my report.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Gregory. Councilman Bausch.
Thank you. Echo Councilman Gregory's thanks to our staff and for everybody, for that matter, in the community that's helping to recover from the storm. I attended the oaths of office for Devin Coonley, Cody Morrisoli, David Rubalcaba, and Alec Valley. It was a treat to see the support that came from other city employees come out to welcome these either new employees or promoted employees. I never been party to something like that with the city, didn't know that it existed. So hats off to everybody who put that together. That was impressive. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Chris. On my report, I attended a meeting down actually in Grover Beach with staff. A bunch of us went down there to see 5 Cities Coalition Housing. It's a 501c3 group that is actually making housing for the homeless. Interesting concept. I think there's about 20 units that they had built down there. And there's opportunity apparently from the county to get involved up here in the North County doing the same kind of a thing. So I think staff is definitely working into it. Ty alluded to that earlier in his report. Tomorrow I have a meeting again with IWMA staff here, and that's all I had for committee reports that I've done in the past week or so. Upcoming events is going to be Paso Robles Youth Commission Advisory Committee meeting Wednesday, February 1st at 5 o'clock, Centennial Park, White Room. Our meeting for the February 7th is canceled. Staff and myself and some others are going to Washington, D.C. to work on the FAA licensing program for the spaceport. Paso Robles Senior Citizens Advisory Committee meeting Monday, February the 13th at 1:30 at the Paso Robles Senior Center is on for next week. Paso Robles Development Review Committee, February 13th here in the City Hall at 3:30. We have also the Paso Robles Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee regular meeting Monday the 13th at 4 p.m. Centennial Park, White Room, or excuse me, Live Oak Room. And then we have the Paso Robles Planning Commission meeting Tuesday the 14th, 6:30 here in our chambers. Paso Robles Super Supplemental Sales Tax and Oversight Committee meeting. It's going to be Wednesday the 15th here in the council chambers again. Paso Robles Development Review Committee again is going to be meeting Monday the 20th at 3:30 upstairs. And finally, Paso Robles City Council meeting will be back on the 21st of February at 6:30 here at the Library Conference Center, council chambers. That does it. Anybody else have anything to say? Good. Okay, then we'll go ahead and have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Councilman Gregory's first and Strong second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We're adjourned.